Hey, what's up, people? I'm back again with another reaction video. Just a few days ago, Carl Froch has come out with another episode of Froch on Fighting, where he is once again speaking about Anthony Joshua. And to me, at this point, it just feels like Carl is very jealous of Anthony Joshua's success as a boxer. I can totally understand when a person critiques a fighter and gives constructive criticism. I've got no problem with that. But when a person is intentionally diminishing a person to uplift themselves, I've got a problem with that. And what I've noticed about Carl, the Cobra International Hall of Famer, is that whenever he speaks negatively about someone else, he always follows it up by speaking about how great he is and about his career. It's almost as if Carl is afraid that people will forget about him and his accomplishments. So, hence the reason why he has to keep speaking about it. So, on this episode of Froch on Fighting, the Cobra is giving his opinion on the fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, and how he feels it should not be for the IBF title. So right off the bat, Carl Froch is explaining how this is a big British heavyweight clash and how Daniel Dubois is 26 years old and how it reminds him of when he faced George Groves. And of course, Carl Froch has to revolve every boxing subject around his own career. But anyway, Daniel Dubois is a young up and coming fighter, just as George Groves was an up and coming young fighter facing him. Carl goes on to speak about the defeats that both fighters have had. AJ's lost to Ruiz, lost to Usyk twice, and how Daniel Dubois lost to Joe Joyce and to Usyk as well. So, considering where both fighters are in their career, Carl agrees that this is a fantastic fight for both fighters, but he just doesn't agree that it should be for the IBF title, which is a title that Carl won at super middleweight, and he just had to show it to us just in case we missed it. Carl believes that this fight should be for an interim title instead of for the full title, but probably what Carl has probably forgotten that Daniel Dubois' fight against Hrgovic was for the interim title, and Daniel became full champion once Usyk vacated his belt. Although I agree that Usyk giving up his belt isn't fair on him, but the IBF have rules that they need to follow. They said that they will be calling upon their mandatory after the Usyk Fury fight, and they had no option but to follow their rules. The Cobra is making out as if it's some big conspiracy against Usyk and it's the influence of the Saudis and their money and the promoters that's made Usyk lose his belt. It's nothing to do with that. If Tyson Fury didn't mess around last year, Usyk could have had his IBF mandatory fight with Hrgovic last year and fought Daniel Dubois for the WBO belt. Then Usyk wouldn't be in a position where he had to vacate his belt. Filip Hrgovic was IBF mandatory challenger since November 2022, but he didn't have his opportunity because of negotiations for the undisputed fight. And I feel sorry for him because he's taken a risk against Daniel Dubois and lost his place. And so what if Daniel Dubois lost to Usyk? He went and fought the mandatory challenger and beat him, so he deserves his place. Fighters lose title fights, but it's all about rebuilding and putting yourself back into position, which Daniel Dubois has done. So I really don't know what Carl Froch is trying to achieve by diminishing this fight and diminishing the credibility of this fight being for the IBF title. I agree with Carl Froch when he says that Usyk is the man. Of course, we know Usyk is the number one heavyweight in the division, but whoever wins this fight can go on to fight Usyk again if he beats Fury. They can fight Usyk for undisputed. I don't think either man can beat Usyk, but they go in for greatness. That's what the sport's all about. Imagine if Hergovic had beaten Daniel Dubois. Are we expecting a man who has been waiting since 2022 to now wait until 2025 before he gets a title shot? I believe that IBF made the right decision and have answered Carl's question for him. It just feels that Carl's agenda behind a lot of these videos is to elevate himself and the career that he had as a fighter. He goes on to speak about how he won the IBF super middleweight title off Lucian Bhutan, who was an undefeated fighter. So he's talking about how he took the title off the champion. Titles get vacated all the time in boxing. Carl's talking as if he's never fought for a vacant title. His fight against Arthur Abraham was for a vacant title. He didn't seem to have a problem fighting that fight. Now, this is the part of the video which started to get very embarrassing. And it's clear to see that Froch on Fighting is all about Carl Froch and his career and his desperation for people not to forget him and his achievements as a fighter. The Cobra went on to rank boxing events at Wembley, and he put his 80,000 attendance fight against George Groves above AJ Klitschko, even though there was more people in attendance, but he ranked that above AJ's fight with Klitschko, mainly because Klitschko was an old man who had been at home for 18 months and AJ struggled badly with him. AJ's other fight against Povetkin was against a Asian fighter who didn't have a brilliant resume. So this is where Carl Froch will diminish a person's career to elevate himself. And yes, Carl Froch had a wonderful career. He's a Hall of Famer. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. But it's just the way that he's putting down AJ and saying when AJ stepped up, against Ruiz and against Usyk, and whenever he's fought anyone that puts it on him, he's found wanting and he's failed at that level. And while we can say that his fight against George Groves at Wembley was a success, we can't say it was against the best in the division, because the best in the division wasn't George Groves, who was obviously young and hungry and up and coming. George Groves was not the best. Carl has had some really great wins in his career, and he will always boast about beating Kessler in the second fight and Bhutan and also Darrell. But he never talks about his fight against Andre Ward. Now, Andre Ward was the best super middleweight at that time. And Andre Ward soundly beat Carl Froch in that fight.
To beat Andre Ward, I need to be working on certain technical different things. But there's other fights out there for me that I can provide many nights of entertainment.
So straight after the fight with Andre Ward, Carl Froch is talking about other fights that he can entertain the public with. You can say whatever you want to say about Anthony Joshua, but at least Joshua, when he lost against Ruiz, he fought him again. Yes, it was a boring fight, but he got the win. He lost to Usyk, but he jumped straight back in again and fought Usyk and lost, but he tried. Is there a legitimate reason why Carl Froch didn't fight Andre Ward again, who was clearly the best in that division? Even though Froch knows that Ward is technically better than he has gone on record as saying that Andre Ward is a boring fighter. Again, this is Carl Froch diminishing a fighter to make himself feel better about himself. If Andre Ward is such a boring fighter, and couldn't fill up Wembley with 80,000 people, why couldn't you beat him? Why couldn't you make adjustments in your fight against him? My conclusion is that Carl Froch is just a very jealous and envious person. Yes, he has sold out Wembley with 80,000 people, but Anthony Joshua is the more popular fighter out of the two. And if he picks up on anything negative about Joshua, he's going to speak on it because it elevates him. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Is Carl Froch just using his platform to clout chase and to promote himself? Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll leave the last words to Andre Ward.
We don't pat ourselves on the back. We don't call ourselves great. We let other people do that.